Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the latest CDLI Backstage. And it's great to have everybody with us, and it's great to have our performers here today. We have David Liam Roberts and LaLa Lee. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here, and we have some people joining our show here as we're getting started. So it's welcome to everybody who's coming along. I also want to say a quick land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge the province of Newfoundland and Labrador as the ancestral homelands of a many diverse population of Indigenous people, including the Beothuk and the island of Newfoundland. Today, the province is home to many diverse populations of Indigenous and other people, and we acknowledge with great respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Mi'kmaq, Inuit, and Métis. Atili Hai, everybody. Apchilasi, which would be welcome to everybody in Nuktitut, and in Mi'kmaq. And Tili Hai, Ilatanamik, which would mean welcome to everybody in Nuktitut. So, welcome. It's lovely to have you with us, and lovely for Debut Atlantic to provide us with these fantastic musicians. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's great to have you. Where are you anyway in the world? Where are you right now?
We are in Halifax, Nova Scotia at the Dalhousie School of Music. Happy to be able to broadcast all the way to Newfoundland. We're really excited for this.
Well, it's exciting to have you. It's exciting to have you. We have musicians, young musicians all over our province, as well as all the other maritime provinces that can really benefit from hearing some fantastic music from you guys. We have some piano and we have some cello. So, what better way to get started than some music? Do you guys do you have something you'd like to play for us? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Yes, we have a few things to play, and we'll start with a fun piece by Igor Stravinsky. And this piece has a few movements, has 5, but we'll talk after each one and tell a little bit more of a story about what the piece is about. This is the first movement. It's called The Introduction to Suite Italienne, Italian Suite.
That was fantastic. My applause it represents everybody in Atlantic Canada. So it's a very loud applause. That was beautiful. That was fantastic. It was gorgeous.
Thank you. So we'll talk a little bit about this piece.
Yeah.
So it's by Igor Stravinsky, and he was a composer that lived in the first half of the last century, 20th century. And so he's Russian, but he lived most of his life in Paris. And so he was at the cutting edge of art in Paris at the time. And he was part of a ballet that was written. It was called Pulcinella. It's written in 1920. And so a choreographer of a famous ballet company called the Ballet Russe, his name is Sergei Diaghilev, and he was a good friend of Stravinsky's, and he asked Stravinsky to write the music for this ballet. And believe it or not, the costume and set designer for this ballet was Pablo Picasso, very famous painter. And so Stravinsky was in that circle of artists. And so Diaghilev asked Stravinsky to write the music, and Diaghilev was very obsessed with the Renaissance music of an Italian composer from the 1500s. His name is Pergolesi. And so his music sounds very, very simple and from long ago. And so he asked Stravinsky to just arrange those really old songs for an orchestra in 1920. And so Stravinsky, being the amazing artist that he was, didn't just arrange the same notes, but he made those same themes into something completely new and very much Stravinsky-esque. And so this was the result of that composition. So it sounds a little bit like music from a long time ago, but it also has the rhythmic drive and it sounds like something that was written in the 20th century. Mm-hmm. And so what you're going to hear next is a dance called Serenade. And like I said before, this piece is an Italian suite. And so what that means is it's a collection of dances, a collection of pieces that can be danced to. And so there were dance suites that were really popular in Europe since the 1500s. And so this is what it is. And so this serenade is a dance that goes like this. So see if you can imagine someone dancing to this. There's a little skip in its step in the first of 2 bars.
was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was Stravinsky as well, was it?
Yes, this is also Stravinsky. So you'll hear the mixture of the very old music and the newer music of Stravinsky.
Yeah.
And so we're playing 5 movements from this piece. And so that was the second. And before we play the third movement, I'll tell you a little bit about the background of Pulcinella. So what does that mean, Pulcinella? Well, Pulcinella was a character in a theater that was very popular in Europe for many centuries, probably since around the 15th century all the way to the 17th century. And so this theater was called the Commedia dell'arte. And so it obviously that's an Italian name, and so it originated in Italy. And so as the name suggests, it was a comedic theater. And so in this theater there are many stock characters, and so one of these characters is named Pulcinella. And so stock character just means that they're characters that were always in the theater. So there was a different storyline every time, and but they were the same characters. They had the same personalities. And so Pulcinella is known to be the character who faces many misfortunes in his life, but he's a little bit of a happy-go-lucky character, and he likes to fight all of his misfortunes with the sound of laughter and the sound of the mandolin. And so I want to show you a little picture just as a visual element, so you can imagine what this looks like.
I think if we can all face any issues in our lives with laughter and mandolin, I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, that's a good way to approach life. So that's Pulcinella.
Oh yeah.
So he has a funny mask on and funny hat.
Yeah.
Dressed all in white. And,
that's cool.
So he's quite the character. And so that's kind of what this ballet is about.
Yeah. Very cool.
It's all about dressing up and creating a story, and sometimes this theater is even done with puppets.
Yeah.
And so this was the entertainment of the people of Europe for a long time.
Very
so
cool.
This next movement is called aria, and that just means that this is a part that someone sings. So you'll hear the melody, and you can imagine an opera singer singing this. As like a big opera singer baritone singing in Italian, and you'll hear many melodies like those. So this is aria by Stravinsky.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you.
I make a comment. Lala, you look so relaxed. Your technique is like it's like you're like paddling in water. You know, it's like beautiful. It's a pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
And Liam, you're doing okay too. Fantastic. I love it. That was beautiful. I can hear I heard some of the themes from the earlier movement pop up.
I'm glad you
Yes,
noticed that.
yes,
I was gonna mention that if anyone noticed, the theme from the second movement came back there.
I can't help but notice that the very beginning of the last one you played, the very opening notes of the theme were very Harry Potter-ish.
Yes.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is that?
That's right.
Yeah.
You can't, you know.
Almost.
It was a Hedwig theme, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you. The next movement we're going to play, it's kind of a funny one. It's called Tarantella, and kind of sounds like tarantula, right? And it's for a good reason, because this is a dance that was traditionally danced to get rid of the poison if you were bit by a tarantula. And so it's kind of a scary dance. And as you can imagine, it's very fast, and it just doesn't stop, because you don't want to stop dancing. That's the whole point, is to get rid of all the poison in your body. This was before science, kind of. So, so this is a really fast song, and it's called Tarantella. It's also by Stravinsky. This is all in the same piece.
Wow. Wow. I feel myself like unpoisoned.
Yeah.
It's not, the coffee is wearing off me. That was incredible. I could see what you mean. It's an intense dance. Yeah.
Yes.
Now, a question. Now, this was all part of a ballet. Was this all part?
Yeah, that's right. So
wow.
this suite is kind of like the greatest hits from this ballet. So of course the ballet was longer.
Yeah.
But these are kind of everyone's favorite melodies.
I can only imagine what this looked like on stage. You know, with the dancers and yeah.
Yeah, it's quite a theatrical play, and you can watch it on YouTube. There are performances.
Oh wow.
online that you can
Okay.
watch. So I'd encourage you to do that if you want. And so the original music is obviously it's for orchestra and also with some opera singers.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's a big production. This is just an arrangement for cello and piano. So we're doing our best.
Oh no! Listen, if the spirit, if what I can understand, you're getting the spirit across of this piece. I can tell you because that was so intense. It was very cool. I love it.
I'm glad to hear that. The last movement we're going to play for you is actually a 2-in-1, and so they go into each other. They kind of allied. So the first one is a minuet, which is a very popular dance from Europe, and how it goes is it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it repeats again. So it leads to the second one, basically. And then the last movement is just called finale. So it's just the exciting end to this amazing piece. This is the last movement of Stravinsky's Pulcinella.
Yahoo!
Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. I could tell when the finale cut in there. I could tell.
Yeah.
It was very finale-ish. That was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing to think about this as a ballet, and the dancers, and the movement on stage and things. It must have been incredible to watch.
It really was. Yeah. And this was in 1920, so people were kind of used to a very tame music back then. So to hear such wild rhythmic music like that for the people of Paris in 1920 was, I think, very, very shocking.
I'd say so. I'm trying to get my timeline in my head here. When was this with respect to the Rite of Spring?
This was just a few years after, or actually maybe 1 year after.
I think
Rite of
so.
Spring was like 1919, I think. Don't quote me on that.
Wow.
But,
Yeah,
right around the same time.
it's amazing. And you think about Picasso being involved in the production like this, and being in a place like Paris at that time must have been a lot of there was a lot of innovation, a lot of new arts being explored. So it's very exciting.
Yes.
Very, very exciting.
Absolutely.
I have a couple of questions that kind of relate to what you guys played that came from the students here. We had a lot of students ask a lot of questions, like in the past couple of days that I was going through. And Marcus asked one question. Marcus asked about chord progressions that you guys like to use when you're doing your own, improvisations, or maybe you're making up your own music. But, as I'm watching LaLa play, I'm hearing chord progressions in Stravinsky's music that are from another planet. The second movement that you played, if you recall, there was one part in particular when the cello was playing like a melody line, and you were playing chords, LaLa, underneath. I don't know what chords they were, but
Me neither.
I'm not quite sure either.
no,
I
but
think that's maybe what's fun about Stravinsky's music is that it's inspired by, of course, very old music from the 1500s, 1600s, more or less.
Yeah.
But he also adds his own twist on it, which is these really interesting harmonies that I don't know if other composers ever really got the hang of or ever tried to do, because he just did them so well, and it's so specific to his writing.
Yeah, well, actually, and I think part of why they sound so weird is because they're not even real. You can't really call them harmonies. So he writes, just like maybe like a C major chord, and so that is like, but then he'll add notes like and so then you get and then if you put those all together, that's not really any chord. It's
Almost
just
everything.
it's just
Yeah.
it's just dissonance.
Yeah.
And so that Stravinsky uses that a lot because that way you're not listening to the harmony, you're just listening to the rhythm.
yeah.
So if you just have a bunch of dissonant chords, then it's only rhythm. So he's good at that. But
Here, I guess it's in a lot of places, but here in Newfoundland, Labrador, on Sundays we'll have Sunday dinner, or is a jigs dinner. So you'll have maybe some chicken and potato and carrot and typical Sunday dinner sort of thing, which I would say would be from the 1600s. And then, but the next day, it all comes together in the pan again, leftovers, and it makes up bubble and squeak or hash. But it's everything together, and it's like everything is there. It's, for some reason, it doesn't taste anything like Sunday dinner, and it's amazing. But it's all the same notes as we're eating on Sunday dinner, but it's all thrown in the pan together. I don't know.
It's exactly the same thing. Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So I have lots of questions. Oh my gosh, where do we start? There's so many questions about what you were doing. I want to ask a couple of cello questions quickly. You use a lot of techniques that were not like conventional. Like there was a lot of bouncing of the bow on the string. Like there was times when I think it was the first movement, then it was like brrr, you were bouncing, or maybe it was the second movement, and there was.
Yeah.
Is there a name on that technique where you bounce the bow?
Yeah, it's called ricochet. And so that's a French word. We have it in English too. We borrow it from French. It just means that we're
Yeah.
and it's funny because the bow naturally wants to bounce because you look at it, the top is wood,
Yeah.
and then this is horsehair,
Hmm.
and so it's really bouncy when it's tightened.
Yeah.
And so if you just place it on the string, it'll just want to bounce.
Yeah.
So actually, that's the natural way of playing with the bow. But usually we want to have a smooth sound, so we actually have to control it from
Yeah.
bouncing.
Yeah.
But in this part, we just get to bounce it like it
Yeah.
wants to.
Very cool. There was a lot of techniques I saw you were, and sometimes you were. We had violinists in before talked about pizzicato, and you were also doing things where you like strumming
Yeah,
multiple
Yeah,
strings at the same time.
it's nice because on the violin it's pretty hard to strum,
Yeah.
but with the cello it's almost like it's in the same place as you would strum a guitar, just different direction, right? You strum a guitar like this, but strum the cello like this. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
Very
fun to
cool.
strum the cello.
Very cool. Very cool techniques. Lala, we had a young musician, Della, in the audience who asked a question here. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask you a question. She wanted to know if the piano you play at home, is special piano, it wasn't something you had made, because I would imagine that that's not possible. But do you have a special piano at your own home that you really love?
It's special to me, but it is what one would think of as like a pretty standard grand piano, which has this curved shape. I don't know if you can see much of it in the video. And it has this lid that you can open up so that the sound comes out a little bit better.
Yes.
Yeah, so my piano at home is a little bit like this one. Yeah, and it's got 88 keys. It's got my 3 pedals down here, everything standard that a pianist might need.
And on this tour, you played on many different pianos, right?
Yeah, so the fun part about playing at different venues is that everywhere we go, I get to try a different instrument out and figure out what makes this one special.
Lala, have you ever played a piano that you just said, I'm in love with this instrument?
Maybe once or twice, yeah.
Kerner Hall piano?
Yeah, sometimes you go to a hall in a random city and you think, okay, we're going to play a concert tonight, and then you come across this really amazing instrument. Yeah, at our school in Toronto, there's a very lovely piano. It's about 9 feet long, too, so you can imagine it takes up a lot of space on stage. Has a big sound. Yeah, it's a great time.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And Liam, can you tell us a little about your instrument?
Yeah, my instrument is actually born in the same city as me. I'm from Winnipeg, and this beautiful instrument was made by an instrument maker in Winnipeg. His name is Garth Lee, and I was very happy to commission this instrument from him in 2017. And so I was 17 years old then, and so it was right around the time that I needed a world-class instrument to be my partner and to start my career with. And I was very lucky. Garth did an amazing job with this cello. The back is made of BC. I need to get this right now. The back is made of European maple, as are the sides. And this is my favorite part of the cello. There's a little dimple in the ribs here, and that's really unique. And so Garth, the maker of the cello, jokes that maybe this was from the tree rings when Chernobyl happened, maybe.
You never know.
So, because it's amazing. And then the front is BC spruce.
Nice, beautiful instrument. And we've had string players in here before who have talked about their instruments and about how instruments age and their sound changes. Have you found since 2017 has your instrument changed in its sound, or you feeling that?
Yeah, it really does. That's the nature of string instruments. That they change over time because it's a box, right? It's a box of wood, and so whenever we play on the strings, there's sound waves that go in and out of the box, and that's the sound that you hear. And so every time that we play the instrument, that's like its life experience.
Yeah, I
so
hear
it
you.
changes day by day.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I have a couple more questions before we maybe finish up with our last piece. Lala, I had a couple of students ask about your time playing in China. like Zoe asked, and some other students as well asked about that. It, it came up. You play in Canada. You played in China. You played in a lot of places. Is there a difference in playing in a place like China versus playing in a place like Canada? The audience different, or is the experience different?
The audience is a little bit different. Yeah. When I was in China, I noticed that. How do I put it? They were really. They like all of our audience are really engaged, but they were engaged in different ways, and they really loved taking little videos to maybe show their friends and family later on after the concert who couldn't make it there, maybe. And yeah, I mean, it's always really nice to go somewhere and see what that culture is like, and then sort of immerse yourself and then play there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was an incredible experience. I went there a couple times to play, and it's when you're going somewhere new, then yeah, it's not just about the music anymore. It's about trying to connect with a different group of people. And I think maybe the biggest thing that I noticed was just the time difference. You know, we traveled there and it's a 12-hour difference, so all of a sudden mornings are nights and afternoons are like when you want to be sleeping. So crazy experience, but
yeah, I hear
really
you.
wonderful. Yeah.
I hear you. And Liam, I have a question for you. There's a couple of students, Riley and Nathan, some other people asked about if you can speak a little bit about your time playing, your experience playing some Métis fiddle music, and how that's has that had an influence on you in any ways?
Yeah, of course. So I grew up in a pretty big family. I have four siblings, and three of them are older than me, and so they learned the violin before me. I was the first cellist in the family, and one of my brothers actually plays guitar, and so my family is Red River Métis through my dad's side, and so my mom really wanted us to just busk, and just because it's a great way to perform, and so starting when I was 5, I joined my older brother and my older sister. We had a guitar, violin, and I played the bass line. And when I was 5 years old, it would just consist of, really simple bass lines. I never played the melodies. I left that to my sister. But that was a huge part of my education with the cello growing up. I think I busked almost every Saturday from when I was 5 years old to probably 15 years old.
Wow.
In and around Winnipeg. Farmers markets, at the Forks, so really public spaces, and Métis fiddle tunes were what we played mostly.
Yeah.
And so this is great music, for example, by the great Métis fiddler Andy DeJarlis. And so, yeah, if you ever want to learn to play the fiddle, there's a huge tradition of Métis fiddle tunes that originated from Red River Valley, so Manitoba to Alberta, basically. And my great-grandfather was a Métis fiddler in the town of St. Anne. So I like to think that that's where part of my musical heritage came from, for sure. And that's actually the reason why my family started to play music, was because it was his violin, it was his fiddle that was passed down, and nobody played it for like 3 generations. And then my mom, who was a musician, found out that there was a fiddle in the family, and so she was like, well, maybe we should learn to play the violin. So that's how my siblings started, and then the violin got a little bit old in my family. They were done with squeaky violins, so that's why I started to play the cello.
Well, that's a fantastic story. We hear so much about our ancestors who have been engaged in music in their own way, in the early days of, when I say early days of the violin and the cello, we were talking the 1700s. And
Yeah.
I mean, the time when your great grandfather, that was probably what, in the 1800s, I would guess.
Yeah, late 1800s, very early 1900s.
Yeah. Really, it's amazing to think back. I know my father has been a fiddle player all of his life, and my great grandfather was a fiddle player all of his life, and that's what got me into it as well. And we have fiddles in our collection from the 1600s, and you imagine like
Wow.
what kind of music we're playing on these instruments at that time.
Yeah.
It's amazing to think. And I know a lot of students that are here in our province in Newfoundland and Labrador have their ancestors have played way up the coast of Labrador. I have a student who's in Riglet whose great grandfather played fiddle and would take his fiddle out on trap lines and play, and he was Inuit, and it's amazing. And I heard him play many years ago, that gentleman, and he played music that I'd never ever heard before, and it was amazing to hear it. So it's such great tradition, the Métis
Wow.
fiddle, Inuit, and European. It's amazing to hear. So that's a great story. I'm glad you shared that. I had no idea. That's beautiful. That's
Yeah,
very
thank
special.
you. And I guess we'll probably wrap up.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd love to play just one fun piece for you before we go. This is a wild piece. I'll let Lala introduce it.
Right, so this is a piece that is based off of another aria, which is a vocal song, and it's from this old Italian opera that follows a man named Figaro, and it's sort of about his travels and all of the little things that he's getting up to, all the trouble he's getting into, and it's very comedic. It's Italian. There's a lot of little sarcasms and jokes sort of interspersed in it. And so the version that we're doing was arranged by a Spanish composer. And I don't know if any of you have watched any Looney Tunes or Bugs Bunny cartoons, but there's a great little clip of this song in the cartoons. So maybe that would be something that you'd like to take a look at, because it's a lot of fun. I grew up watching these old cartoons, so this piece takes me back to my old days.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll recognize some of the themes.
fantastic. I feel like I need to drop an anvil on somebody. Yeah, that was fantastic. Beautiful. Lovely job. I'm going to clue us up here. Thank you very much, David Lee Roberts and LaLa Lee. Thank you very much. And thank you to Debut Atlantic for making this possible, and CDLI for making it possible as well. Really appreciate you guys coming in and playing for us today. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Atsunai, everyone, Atsunai. And see you next time.